Welcome to Alternative Dog Moms Podcast. I'm Kimberly Gauthier, the creator of Keep the Tail Wagging. For the past 9 years, I've been blogging about raw feeding, pet wellness, and life as a crazy dog mom. I've seen massive improvements in my dog's health since I started raising my dogs naturally, and I'm passionate about sharing my experience to help other pet parents.
I'm Erin Scott. For the past 9 years, I've been researching and learning everything I can about healing cancer, allergies, autoimmune, and mystery illnesses in both my dogs and myself. And I can't wait to share with you everything I've learned on this journey. As the Alternative Dog Moms, we're bringing you all the latest dog health news that we're following and sharing the tips, tricks, and resources we learn along the way. Now, let's get started. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, Erin.
How are you?
I'm doing really well. I have 2 days off, a Friday and a Monday. And I used those days because I was going to finish the dog nutrition course. I did not finish it. Yesterday was my last day of my vacation. Actually, this weekend, I didn't plan my weekend out very well because I forgot that yesterday was Johan's birthday, which meant that we had family stuff on Sunday. And my friends had a seafood boil on Saturday. So I had a lot of socializing going on this weekend.
So did I, actually.
Yeah, it was weird. It was the perfect amount of socialization.
Yeah, two wonderful friends of mine, they actually had eloped out to your neck of the woods a couple weeks ago and got married. And then they had a big Halloween themed party over the weekend. So congratulations, John and Amy.
Did you dress up?
No. Yeah, Tim and I don't really do Halloween. I kind of love that about him. He hates roller coasters and Halloween, and so I mean, I don't hate it. I don't know. Even as a kid, I just never got into it.
I love the idea of Halloween. Like, I love when people come up with these costumes that you have to
I love other people.
Yeah, because my friend Kathy, she said that one year she had a black shirt with a big white pea on it, and then she put makeup around her eye, and she was a black-eyed pea. I love those type of costumes where you have to think about what it is, and it's like, oh, I get it.
There was somebody who had rolls of the Smarties candies taped to her pants because she was a Smartie Pants.
That's good. I just think that's clever.
Like, I can never think of anything cool like that, so I'm just like, whatever.
The only thing I can do is copy something that I heard about. I can never think about it because it's just like, oh, what a cool idea. And I'm just amazed at these people who will come up with these things, even if they're more involved, because my friend's pregnant. So she and her husband created an oven out of just cardboard boxes and put a bun, it had a little window with a bun inside. And so she was a bun in the oven. And I'm just like, that's very clever. I could never do that.
See, I've told you, I don't even make my own golden paste because I'm so not DIY. So I'm certainly not going to be cutting out cardboard or anything for a costume. And
I would get as far as pulling the cardboard out of the recycling and maybe start cutting it up. But then my fingers would hurt because it's like, wow, it's really hard to cut this cardboard. And that's where I would stop. I would start watching something on TV and then it just wouldn't happen. But speaking of DIY, because I'm just so excited about it, I made my own flat tray for my dog. I bought some stuff and that wasn't intended to be used for dogs and made it into a use for a dog. So it's not quite technically DIY, but I think for the two of us, it counts.
That's DIY. I would count that.
Yeah, it counts in our world. But yeah, Johan and I, because I'm still my head is all around the Mind Pet platters. And because although they didn't work for me, I just love the idea of dogs eating from a flat dish. And I was just trying to think, and I'm talking to Johan about it. And we were like, we have a friend who does a lot of work with metals. And I was like, oh my God. And he was over the other day. And I've actually never met him in person, but I know who he is. And I was like, oh my God, what's that Mike? And I was like, shoot, I wanted to ask him about making these trays. And I was explaining it to him. And Johan was like, you should be able to find a lunch tray or something like that. And because I pulled out all the different trays in our kitchen to show him, it's like, it needs to look like this with the lid on the side, but a little higher. And Johan, he's good at interpreting me. And we both pulled out our phones and started searching eBay and Amazon. And he showed me, we settled on lunch trays. And at first we were trying to find just, rectangular ones, but
like you'd have in school or something.
yeah, exactly. Because that was where my head was. And then I found the round, and they were called like dinner trays with dividers. They're basically for camping.
Oh,
And then it was sort of like, well, they'll slide against the floor, and it's like, fine, we'll get some rubber things to put on the bottom. And we got 4 trays for $20. The big pack of rubber things was $8. Put 4 feet on each tray, and boom, I had my flat trays. And I gave them a try, and the dogs ate out of them just great. So I'm just so proud of myself. I don't think it will work for every dog. If my dogs were taller, because they're so low, because I just set them on the ground rather than putting them up on something. But my dogs were just like the perfect height for them. But I think you can also get like rubber feet that are thicker or taller to have them sit up, and they're super easy to clean. So I just wash them in the sink, and I feel so proud of myself.
well, that's awesome.
I don't use them each time, but I like to use them when I can. So yay.
I like it. We'll make sure we have links in the show notes.
I know. Thank you. It costs $8 each to make.
So I've had a whole thing going on with my poor Penny. She had this UTI. She's had it for several weeks, and it's been wily because there was a time a couple weeks ago when we rechecked her urine and it didn't really show anything. But then my vet went back and did it where they stick the needle in through her bladder, and it definitely came back with a bacteria at that time. So she thought it was time to do the antibiotic. So I've just been like, oh God, I don't want to do that.
I know. And the thing that sucks is with all that we learn, and when you learn even more and more, on one hand, okay, yeah, do the antibiotic. It'll cure your dog. It's fine. You can repopulate the bacteria. But then on the flip side, it's just like, this is not good. It just sucks. I feel your pain.
So we went and picked the antibiotic up last Friday, and my vet's like, oh, just give her one on a full stomach. So I did, and it did not sit well with her stomach.
Oh.
And she was up like all night, and kept wanting to go outside and eat grass, and she couldn't get comfortable, and she'd come in, and then, she'd try to go back to bed, but she couldn't get comfortable, and I could hear her stomach gurgling, and I think she was nauseous. And so I basically didn't get any sleep all night. And Tim wakes up in the morning and trips over me because I'm laying like on the dog bed with her, with a blanket over us because I had gotten cold and like reached down from the sofa and just yanked it on us because I had finally got her to settle down around like 5 a.m. And that was a rough night. So now we have learned, well, we have to give her half of one of those twice a day instead of once a day. So what our plan is I'm giving her the SBU during this course of antibiotics. When I can time it out properly, I'm trying to give her one of the other probiotics that our vet gave us also. But sometimes our timing just doesn't work out real well.
Yeah. But
what happened was Penny had discovered the SBU in her bowl of food, and she must have accidentally like bit down into it. And so now she thinks I'm trying to poison her. And she's like examining all of her meals, every bite to make sure that there's nothing weird in there. Like she spit something out on the floor and then was like, oh, this is okay. And then ate it up. And I'm like, oh God.
Oh my God. I totally know that thing where they're gently chewing, trying to figure it out. I've so been there.
So it's just been a whole ordeal. And so then we're going to follow it up with animal biome. And once she's done the antibiotics, and then see kind of how she's doing. And we're probably going to, recheck her and either consider doing another fecal transplant where it's like the enema style or another round of animal biome. So that's kind of our plan that's in place. And I'm just really bummed out about it. But I want her to be better, and we've been trying to do some other things, and it wasn't working, and I don't want anything to get worse. I don't want anything to spread to her kidneys. So I think it's time.
Oh, poor baby.
I know. She's so patient with me.
Well, Zoe is 9 years old now.
Happy birthday to Zoe.
Yes, she turned 9 on Halloween, and she didn't know why I was so happy and celebrating, but she was there for it, and she got a big, beautiful meal. That was actually, I didn't realize it until after I really looked at it. I was like, this is basically a real dog box meal. So I sent a picture of it to Ruby. And I love having that because I don't give my dogs treats and chews on a daily basis. So I end up stocking up on like a lot of the boxes. I just open them up and I have a real dog box section of my pantry. And I just have everything organized by what it is. And so I just put everything away. And so I can just go up and pull what I need. So she was happy. And we went for a couple of walks, and we went for one long walk, and then we went for a drive because I had to drop off my ballot. So we went for a long drive, and she was loving that. And, but yeah, it was so funny because it's like, gosh, you're 9 years old. I still remember when she was like this cute little fluffy puppy that barked all the time. Puppies have that cute little bark. And it's like, you shouldn't encourage it because eventually they're going to be a big dog that barks all the time. But she had such a cute little bark when she was a puppy. So, 9 years old. And so now it's like, I hate to say it, but now I'm on cancer watch.
Oh, no.
It's just like, she's doing good. She had a tumor in 2021, and we didn't know what it was. But they thought it was an abscess at first, but when they removed it and sent it in, it actually was a tumor. It just was benign. So hopefully that was it. And otherwise, she's a happy, healthy girl. So 9 years old.
Woohoo. Zoe. So I wanted to tell you the things I've been geeking out on.
Okay.
I'm very excited. I guess by the time this comes out, it will have passed. But Adored Beast is doing a Zoom presentation all about colloidal silver tomorrow. Nice. Because they have their own product coming out. And I'm super excited about it because it's one of those things where I feel like there's things I should know to know which are the good ones, but like I'm not sure what it is I'm supposed to know about it to pick out what the good ones are. Yeah. And so I feel like if Adored Beast puts one out, that's one that I can trust is a high quality product.
I love colloidal silver. I add it to my dog's water. I add it to my water and my smoothies. I'm a big fan. It's funny, and I have it in a spray bottle because I use it to spray on wounds, even on my own. I'm very big at cutting myself.
Because I had one that was like an ointment as well as kind of like a liquid one. And I don't know, and then you'll like read something about like, well, this is how to find a quality one. And then I'm like, oh, do I have a quality one? I don't know. Like, I just have one, and I'm like always worried I'm not getting the right thing.
It is hard because it's like, it feels as if every single time something becomes popular, everyone comes out with one. And also, I mean, different people use different things. So, like when I was looking for once, I decided that I was going to start giving my dogs cod liver oil. And then I go and I Google cod liver oil to see, well, which one should I get? And then there's a gazillion out there. And you know that not all of them are created equal. Organic and natural don't have any type of meaning anymore. Right. And so you can't trust that. And you have to if I know someone that's using a product, I'll ask them, text them and say, send me a picture of what you're using. But even then you can end up with a gazillion different, things recommended to you. I mean, even with CBD oil right now, I have three different types of CBD oil in my house. And one of them is one that, I started using when Scott was diagnosed with cancer. One of them I purchased at the Redefining Pet Health, expo in October. And then the third one someone sent me, someone told me about it and I bought some of their CBD oil. It's actually, they call it, it's hemp oil. And they sent other stuff in the box for me to try out. And it's like, and I love them all. They're all great. And it's just sort of like, well, gosh darn, everyone thinks their stuff is the best. And it's hard to figure out, if it's good or not. And sometimes I'm even afraid to ask the experts, because if they have a product, or if they're very, very, focused on a product, or, they'll just deliver that one and then tell you all the things that are wrong with everything else. And it's just like, no, is it really wrong? Or are you biased? So, yeah. So actually, long story short, I go by, like with Adored Beast, I trust that brand so much.
Right.
That, I feel like I don't have to do that much homework if I buy something from that brand.
Right.
Whereas,
and that was how I felt.
Yeah. With the mushrooms and stuff, there's few brands that I'll buy mushrooms from because, I didn't realize how complicated it was, and, about where they're grown and how they're grown and all of that. I had no idea. And so now I'm just sort of like, well, I don't know who to trust. Adored Beast.
So I had something I've been wanting to mention to you
Okay.
and get your input on.
All right.
So a few weeks ago, there's a dog trainer who I follow online, and she put out an article about the use of CBD. And the part of the article that I agreed with was that when your dog has like a severe behavior issue, CBD is not like a miracle cure. It's not going to take the place of training when there's like a severe problem. And I agree with that statement. But then she went on to say how basically CBD is like snake oil and none of it is regulated. You never know what you're going to get. It's all BS. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to follow this person anymore because I don't think they know what they're talking about. And that they didn't take the time to learn how to find what is actually a quality product. Now, like we just said, sometimes that's difficult to do your own research, but it is possible.
Yeah. And my first question that came to my mind is, what products are you using and where did you get them? And the same thing is like, and where's your, like this is her own little miniature study. Like, who's involved in this study? These are all of your clients. And then where are they getting their products from? Because I do agree that if you're just going up to the grocery store or even a local pet store, it is hit or miss on the CBD oil. I have found I will not buy CBD oil from a pet store, even in local independent pet store. I think there are going to be few exceptions. Like there's Chelsea Kent. I think that this is a person who, if she was carrying CBD oil in her store, you better believe that she knows about how it was made, how it was sourced. She took the time to really educate herself on what she's going to bring into her store. And I think a lot of stores probably do the same, but not to the level that I think she would do. And because I don't even do it to that level. And it's like with every person that I speak to who runs a CBD oil company, I learn something new about the industry. And I attended a CBD expo once here. It was in Seattle several years ago. And I was stunned by the number of people at this expo who had no idea what they were talking about. and the number who didn't realize, even though there were booths there specifically for pets, the number of people who had no idea that pets could have CBD. Wow. I mean, I was really, and it wasn't like it was because they hired some temp people to work a booth for a day. These were the company owners and company employees, and they had no idea what they were talking about. So it's, so if that were where I stopped, then I would agree with her. It's just all snake oil. What I think people make the mistake, and, I will admit that I've made this mistake in the past, is treating CBD like it's this miracle cure and thinking that all CBD is created equal. And even if I take, like, for instance, I have, like I said, 3 different brands in my house right now. My dogs respond differently to each brand. So it's just like, if with Rodrigo, well, there's one brand where they put a peanut butter essential oil in it.
Oh.
And Zoe, she turns away from all the brands. I bring that one out. She loves it. Rodrigo loves it. He actually, the last night, went to the shelf where the CBD oil is and just sat there smelling them, and then sat down in front of the shelf like, hey, I think it's time for my CBD oil. And he loves it. And it obviously gives him relief from pain. And I give it to Zoe and Apollo just as a preventative, just to help, with their system, and they like it. But, as far as, what is it? The 4th of July, like I think it's hilarious when people recommend CBD oil for the 4th of July. I have lots of recommendations. Like CBD oil is part of my day, but CBD oil is not going to do anything
Right.
and maybe there's that magical.
Not in my house either.
Yeah. I mean, I know that because you always hear from people who, oh yeah, I just give my dog CBD oil and he's fine. And it's just like, wow, you're the luckiest person alive, because it just doesn't work like that in my house. And so there are times when I've had to medicate Rodrigo. There's times when I've had to use prescription pain medication for him. But then once I found the right CBD oil product and the right dosage for him, I was able to lean a little more heavily on it. But yeah, it's not a cure-all. It's not a joint supplement. It's, it's to help alleviate pain. It's to help reduce inflammation, and it's help to, calm the mind. But no, if you have a dog that has a horrible recall, CBD oil is not going to fix it.
Right. Which I do agree with that. But I guess I found it like a little offensive that somebody who's like a professional is saying that there's no way to figure out what's a good product or not, when, at least I learned from Angela that you can look at the certificate of analysis, that you want like a full spectrum instead of a broad spectrum.
And also, I mean, and I think that, I see this a lot in the pet industry, where everyone seems to act like everything is going to work for every dog. And like, if it's going to be CBD, then every CBD oil product on the planet is exactly the same. You just pick the packaging that you like better, and all of it's going to work. And I have tried so many different brands. And for years, I actually was just like, yeah, I don't know about the CBD stuff. Because sometimes it seemed like it worked. Most of the time it seemed like it didn't. I just wasn't sure. And it wasn't until I started with CBD Dog Health that I felt like, okay, I actually think I'm seeing a difference. And then when I went beyond them, and I shouldn't say like it's better than, but, tried other brands that I felt were on the same level, then I'm like, okay, so there is something to this. It's a matter of, picking the right product for you. I think, like for instance, there's CBD with CBD Dog Health. With Earth Buddy, they call it a CBDA, where it's a different compound. And so that's the reason why it works better. And then with this other product, which it started out with human grade, because the guy had an accident and he created a product for himself, but then he extended it to his dog as well. So he has a dog line and a human line, but it's basically the same thing. So what's cool is that I'm taking the human version while Rodrigo's taking the dog version. I kind of feel like I can feel what he's feeling. And this stuff is powerful and it works. And, but I honestly think that it's a matter of figuring out what works. And, going back to the trainer, I have so many questions, because I would want to know, like, how do you feel about diet? So are you one of those who thinks fresh food is all a bunch of malarkey? Do you not agree with holistic medicine, organic things? And I would like to know, like, where they are in this journey, because I feel like sometimes people do this huge pushback because they just don't want to take it on. But wow, that's like a strong opinion that you can't find anything.
Yeah, I thought so too. And what I was curious about, and what I really liked about your answer was, we're obviously people, we're the alternative dog moms, right? Like we're talking to other alternative dog moms. Like, if you were in a position to look for a trainer, like for instance, if I was looking to work with somebody and I saw that, I would be like, nope, next.
Nope.
And I was curious, if you felt that way also, and what other factors would you be looking for if you were going to start working with a trainer?
It's funny because when it comes to dog training, I try to keep like with everything, I try to keep an open mind, because over the years I've learned that you just never know where you're going to get the information. You don't know what's going to work best for your individual dog. So I try to keep an open mind about everything. And I would hope to work with a dog trainer that's the same way. I would really hate to work with a dog trainer that, I can understand where there's going to be some boundaries. We're all going to have some boundaries of what we can and cannot do, what we're comfortable with. But I would not want to work with a dog trainer who, similar to like a veterinarian, where, hey, everything that we're doing, guess what? It's not working. None of it's working. So maybe it's time for us to try something different. And to have that person be like, nope, we just have to stay the path and we'll get there eventually, and not be willing to look at my dog as an individual. That's something that would be really uncomfortable to me. And that response of, it's all snake oil. My thing is, where is your evidence of that? Are you just saying that because you don't like it? You don't like, and what about it don't you like? Is it just the product itself and the fact that it's been popularized, it's risen in popularity. And of course, when something's popular, people are going to put out shoddy products of it. But, I'm just curious, like, what's your evidence that what you're saying is true? And
yeah, because I felt like it was very much an opinion piece, but that it was written like fact. And quite frankly, I guess that's honestly a lot of the world these days.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's just it. It's like I've tried, because although I try to make it very clear that my blog is a personal blog, that this is my experience with my dogs, I still, especially now that I'm going back and rewriting old posts, people who come to my blog for the first time may not really get that this is a personal blog. Also, they probably will just scroll to the section that answers their question. So it's important for me that if I would make a very, black and white statement like that, that I also support it with fact. I can't just say studies have shown or research has shown. I need to actually provide links to studies to say, this is what I read, or, articles, or like, this is why I've come to this conclusion, rather than just saying it and being like, and there you go.
And like, what I think I was getting in the frustration is that, and this part I did agree with what she was saying, right? Like that we touched on, like that some people seem to think that CBD is going to be like some magic cure-all. Mm-hmm. And as a trainer, I'm sure she's probably having people come to her and say like, oh, well, why should I pay for training when I could just do CBD? Or, like I could see how that would be like something very frustrating to hear. And so like I was on board with like reading about, yeah, you're right. Like CBD doesn't take the place of training. If you only have a certain budget to spend it on the training, rather than spend it on, trying a supplement or something for a behavior issue. Like that totally makes sense to me. But it was just this whole extending it into having no real fact, just sort of personal anecdotal experience to say that CBD doesn't do anything and that it's all BS and that there's no quality products and stuff. That was where I was just kind of like, oh boy, like I was on board until you got there,
Yeah. And the thing about it is like when Apollo joined us, he had a raging case of separation anxiety. And one thing that was recommended by our veterinarian was CBD oil. And it wasn't to cure the separation anxiety. It was just to take the edge off so he didn't hurt himself, and that we could actually work on training him because, we needed him to be calm and to listen to us. And he's in this new environment and he's freaking out and he doesn't want to be alone. And every time we left, he freaked out. Gosh, when I came back from California, I would go and step on the porch and he would be inside just losing his mind because it's like, she's leaving again. And then it took him a couple of days but then he was just like, oh, okay, she's here. It's okay. And now he's perfectly fine. But, today he's been with us for 3 years, I think. And he's great. He's fine. I can leave him alone all day and he'll be just fine. But it took us a time to get there. The CBD oil didn't do that. Right. It was just consistency and working with him and stuff. It was just one of many things that we did. But I can kind of see if someone comes across, an article or a discussion in a group and people are acting as if CBD was the answer. I can see that people would get the idea because, gosh, wouldn't that be easy?
Right.
That's all we had to do. And didn't have to pay for a trainer. We can just do CBD oil and somehow our dog would magically.
Yeah. And we didn't have to do anything.
Know, exactly. But yeah, it's when it comes to training, my experience recently, I tried to bring up a training conversation about separation anxiety, actually, because someone posted this guy, I don't remember his full name. I know it was Sean something, posted something about how, what causes separation anxiety. And I thought some of the things that he said were interesting. I didn't agree with everything that he said, but again, it's just sort of like, oh, this is an interesting take. And he said things like, stop giving your dog tons of attention. Stop letting your dog follow you everywhere. Stop leaning on your dog like it's your emotional support. Basically, it was just sort of like ignore your dog, let them, encourage them to be independent. And on one hand, I feel like it's kind of hard to have these type of discussions in one post, especially if you're considered a bad trainer. And I don't mean like bad as in you can't train dogs, but you're considered like one of the bad guys of training. People will just see that you posted something and then there's, let the arguments ensue.
Right.
And so, I had one person tell me, I'm disappointed that you would share this. I can't believe that you believe in stuff like this. And it's like, what? And it got so out of control because I just wanted to understand, why did my dog have separation anxiety? Why doesn't he now? And is he cured? What would have happened if I had to go back to work? Because I feel like a big part of his improvement was the fact that I started working from home.
Oh, how long had he been with you before COVID happened?
He came to us in 2019.
Oh,
so
okay.
He was with us for a year and a half before COVID. And so before that, it was, he had a dog walker. I mean, he did calm down. He went to doggy daycare for a few months and then we stopped that. And, actually, no, he wasn't with us for a year and a half. He was with us for like maybe 6 months because he was born in January 2019. He joined us in August of 2019. Oh. And then COVID was March of 2020. So yeah, so that wasn't, but he went to doggy daycare for a couple of months. And then, he got walked by our dog walker twice a week. And then I was home. So, he's kind of relaxed and stuff, but I've always been curious, like, what was it for him? And I thought it could be a really good conversation. It was not. Lots of people, going back and forth and being angry with each other and just really being condescending towards each other, which is interesting to me because I totally get why people are passionate about what they're passionate about. But I don't understand why people think that being, rude, calling people names, being condescending, how that is going to get your point across or how it's going to help the dog owners who are following along because we just want to know how to raise the best dogs ever. And we can't because, mom and dad are arguing and gosh, I'm embarrassed and uncomfortable. So I ended up deleting all of the posts and just as a reminder to myself, don't post anything about dog training ever again.
So I guess my question is, I'm assuming that this trainer, that the article you posted, is he like a balance trainer? Is he somebody that I'm assuming he's not like 100% purely positive trainer.
Yeah. I'm guessing he's a balance trainer. a lot of people, what was interesting to me is I saw a lot of comments of, I just went over to his page and I saw right away that he's abusive to dogs. And I was just like, I went over to his page and I don't know what they saw, because I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything that stood out as this guy is abusive to dogs. Whereas, I've seen some pretty horrible things that dog trainers will do to animals. And so that's what I was expecting, like these really horrible things. And it wasn't it. But I think it was mostly, if you don't agree with me, or if you don't think the way I think, then I don't want anything to do with you. I mean, I got so many, I'm unfollowing your page messages that I just didn't even bother responding to any of them, because it was just like, okay, I don't know what people like. I'm curious, when people do that, what response are you looking for?
Yeah.
Is it oh no, what did I do wrong? I mean, what do you hope to gain by sending? Because to me, it just seems mean and unnecessarily passive aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, the article that I was telling you about with this training in the CBD, like, I decided I was going to unfollow that page. I just clicked unfollow. I didn't have to tell anybody about it.
You didn't leave a comment explaining that you're going to unfollow, that you're very disappointed, and that this is not, you are not the person.
I actually did have like this momentary thing where I'm like, should I tell her about the certificate of analysis, that there is a way to see like what the quality is? And then I don't know, like, I don't know if I'm just way too passive about these things, but I just felt like
sometimes it just comes down, is this the hill you want to die on?
Yeah.
And also sometimes you get the energy, like sometimes people will say something and they'll say something like, I have yet to find a product that works consistently with dogs, and I'm just not convinced that this is a real thing. To me, a statement like that is open to someone going, hey, have you considered looking at this? And hey, I used to feel the same way, but then I learned about the certificate of authenticity and processing. And here's this really great website that goes into all of this and why they do what they do. And I've tried their products and I've seen a difference. To me, that's a conversation. But when someone is just like blanket out, nope, it's snake oil. I mean, is that someone who wants to be disagreed with and wants to get new information? Did they wrap it up with, but if you know something different, please, by all means, let me know.
Right. It didn't give me that kind of vibe. And I guess, have a personal policy that like, I'm not going to argue with people on the internet about anything ever, because I just don't ever really care that much about it. None of these are hills I'm going to die on,
Yeah, it really is. It's pointless. I always get to a point where when people argue on the internet, it's never about what they're arguing about. I think it's a dopamine hit, because I think that people get some type of elation when they're arguing, and when, get those zingers in there. I mean, it feels, I will admit, it does feel good, because I'm typically that person that thinks of a really good comeback 3 days later. And I was like, I should have said that. So come up with it right on the money. Gosh, it feels good. I remember one time I was arguing with this woman on YouTube, and I kept calling her Dusty, and I don't know why. I just kept saying it because I thought it was funny, and man, it was ticking her off, and that made it even funnier. So that's petty and childish, and I don't do that anymore. But yeah, arguing with people doesn't change their mind. It just gets people to argue more. I mean, and if they don't want to know, they don't want to know. But I am curious. I mean, it's the same as, the veterinarians who are super anti-raw. Mm-hmm. I'm really curious about the raw-fed dogs they're seeing and what they're being fed. And because if the reason why you're anti-raw, and if the reason why you think, no one can balance their dog's diet is because you have a bunch of people coming to you who feed ground beef and rice, then I can understand why you have a problem with raw feeding. But if that's not the case, and you haven't taken the time to talk to people who feed raw and have that balanced conversation, then, I don't really care what you say. I just, to me, I would do the same thing as you, is to me that highlights sort of how you look at everything. I know that you're not going to, first of all, you're going to be very stubborn, and in this space, you're not going to be open to new information. And I need someone who's going to be open to new information because
Right.
I may be that dog that they've never seen before. And that so they have to be inventive when it comes to how we're going to train the dog. And if, I don't want to be with a jerk that's going to be mean to my dog.
I've met a lot of dog trainers over the years, and a lot of them have interesting personalities.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
I don't subscribe to any one specific like philosophy of dog training myself, other than like I just want to like the least aversive method as possible at all times, and hoping that that's always on the positive end of the spectrum. But
Yeah.
like I think there are times when it's okay to use other tools in certain situations, and I like somebody that's open and knowledgeable about how to use these tools if there's an issue where
Yeah.
that should arise.
Right.
And I have a friend who lives out in the middle of like 80 acres of woods, basically, and there are bears and all kinds of crazy wildlife that can be encountered. And so she wears, I call it her Batman utility belt, where she has like some kind of like riding crop and like a air horn and something that sprays. And some of these products are marketed as dog training tools. I would never want to use them to train my dog. I would never put blaring an air horn in my dog's face. But if I need to be able to scare a bear away, like that's a reason to have this tool, So I just think like tools can be used in different ways, and I wouldn't ever want to cut myself off, and not consider something as an option when it could be helpful in a certain situation.
Yeah. I worry about karma, and I feel that if I'm super judgy about something, the next dog I have is going to be the dog that needs a trained collar or something like that. Because I'm with you. I want to be the least aversive as possible. I want my dogs to enjoy their lives and be dogs. But it's funny because I would hate to be like a reality TV show because people would probably think I abuse my dogs. Because guess what? Sometimes I yell at them because I get so angry. Like when Apollo earlier today, he was not listening to me and I'm screaming, Apollo, get back here now. And he's like, nope, I'm going to the neighbor's house. And so I go after him and I grab his collar and I don't yank him or squeeze him tight. I just get a hold of his collar so that I can redirect him. And it's like, go home. And he goes back into the yard. But I know for a fact that if someone saw me do that, they would be like, nope, that's, you're being aggressive and you're doing something horrible. And it's too much. I feel like people expect perfection. But none of us are perfect. None of our dogs are perfect. We're all doing the best we can with the information we have. But if anyone who happens to be a passionate dog trainer is listening, I could tell you right now, if I see you online yelling at people, insulting people, bullying people, I don't care if you have dog training magic coming out of your yin yang. I don't want anything to do with you because to me, how you interact with people on social media, I look at this is how they're going to interact with my dog. If my dog doesn't do something the way you want them to do it, and if I'm not there to keep an eye on you, you are going to do something horrible to my dog. And I won't even know. I'll just know that my dog is afraid of you. And you'll probably try to tell me, oh no, your dog just respects me. And so I don't believe you. And because I even had someone message me to tell me, here are some dog trainers for you to follow. And I'm like, yeah, according to you. And it's just sort of like, I don't know you. And just because you like these dog trainers, you don't know me. You don't know if they are good for me and my dogs, if I'll like their information, if I'll like the delivery. This is for you. I mean, I get it. I think we should share this information, but let's not be, so positive that these guys are the positive ones that we should follow and these guys are horrible and negative and we should demonize them. I think it's a little more complicated than that.
I don't know if I've shared this on here before, but we did a training class with Penny when I first adopted her, and I didn't know as much about the training then as I do now. And there was like sort of like a popular trainer here in town that worked with a lot of the pit bull rescues. And this was somebody who was a balance trainer that used prong collars. And I wasn't averse to going that when I started. And actually, Tim and I decided kind of halfway through the class that we didn't like this trainer. We thought this was too heavy-handed. We didn't think that Penny needed this. And we just kind of didn't want to go anymore, and that was not for us. I'm not necessarily opposed to a prong collar in every situation. There might be a situation where it would be needed, but it was actually having that experience that made us realize that like, oh, that's actually not for us.
Yeah.
And we didn't like kind of know that ahead of time.
And I think that that's so great because it's like, I feel the same way about, I've never tried prong collars with my dogs, but I have tried the other training collars. And so it wasn't a shock collar. It was a vibration collar. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like it because it was sort of flimsy. I was confused about like the message that I was sending. Like, what am I supposed to be doing that I can't just call my dog? Like, it was supposed to be able to stop your dog. And it's like, will it really? And it was just a lot of work for a dog that I just didn't think he or I were getting anything out of it. And I think that sometimes we need to either talk to people who are using them, and by talk to people, I mean multiple people, to have a better understanding of why they're using it and how it's helping them, and maybe even try it ourselves at some point like you did to determine that, yeah, this isn't for my dog. Because I'm the same way. My dogs are really easy dogs. And also there are things that I don't care about. So for instance, when I open the door and my dogs go bolting out of the house, I don't care. We don't live on a busy road, or we're not right up to a road. They just run out into the yard and run around and play. And so it doesn't bother me that they do that. They won't run out to the Centennial Trail, thank heavens. And they just run around and play, and we walk around the property, and then we go inside. And I know that if people saw this with my dogs, they would be like, you need to make your dog sit, and they need to wait until you open the door and be calm and then walk outside, or let you walk out first. I don't care. It's just, that's not the hill I plan on dying on. And it's just like, it's not a problem to me. However, I do not like it when my dogs leave the property without me or without permission, because that is dangerous. And so that's something that I do work on. So when we're out running around, I'm constantly working on recall with them, just to, especially with Apollo, to remind them that, no, this is our property. And when they get to the edge, I call them to make sure they don't go beyond the edge, because we don't have a fenced property, because that is important to me. Long story short.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of different variables. And when I see people being super closed-minded, it's a turnoff, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It's like on one side, I kind of understand it, because I figure my thought is, for some of the people, what have they seen? It's sort of like people in rescue who are very adamant against breeding. If all they're seeing are the puppy mills and what happens and stuff like that, then I can understand why they have such a very strong opinion. And with trainers, if all you see are the people who are using these tools poorly and badly, and animals becoming hurt or shutting down because of the use of these tools, then I can understand why you have such a strong opinion in reaction to them. But that's not my world. Right. And so it's like, I need a calm, respectful conversation if you actually hope to get me on your side and see where you're coming from. If you're just insulting people, I'm just like, okay, this is just a crazy person, and I'm going to go ahead and go ban them, get them out of the conversation, and let's go and talk about other people. And it's like you lose at this great opportunity to educate so many people. But I'm actually surprised that, and obviously I don't know how easy it would be, because the one thing that bothers me is seeing these tools sold openly in pet stores. Because I do think that these are tools that should be sold by dog trainers. Because I've seen people with puppies, trying to buy a prong collar, trying to buy a bark collar. And it's just sort of like, if you don't want your dog to bark, maybe you shouldn't get a dog. Or you should find a breed that is not known for barking. But like Zoe is a barker. And I would hate to see her happy spirit being collared up, and every time she vocalized has something sprayed in her face or something was shocked on her. I think that that would be really harmful to her, because she's a sweet girl, and all I have to do is acknowledge it. And it's like when she starts barking, I go, okay, Zoe, I hear you. And she'll stop for a little bit.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know how you would regulate that, but I do sometimes I cringe a lot when I see things like that too, or just even when you see what's sold on the shelves at certain stores, and because you just know people come in there and they don't know.
Yeah. I mean, because it's there, it's sold. So if it's that dangerous, the same thing like rawhide shoes. If they're that dangerous, why are they selling them?
Right.
To change the subject and to wrap up, I want to say that I was, with my family this weekend, and my sister-in-law was telling me about this great meal that she makes for her dog. And, and it's like, she ground some chicken or some turkey and some rice, and she puts all these things and, in it. And I was just sort of laughing inside, because I was just like, ugh, put that on social media. They'll rip you apart for that rice. But I didn't say anything to her, because to me, it's like her dog is so old and still alive. It's not even funny. And it makes her dog happy. And it's just like, and it makes her happy. And I love the fact that most of her dog's food is fresh food. It may not be the right fresh food according to me, but for her dog, it's fresh food, and her dog loves it, and it makes her so happy to do it. So I did not spoil her story of her recipe.
Yeah, I have another wedding to go to this weekend for a family member, and I know that there's family members there who recently got a dog, because I've been seeing the photos on Facebook, and I know that they aren't into dogs the way that I'm into dogs, and so sometimes I dread the topic of dogs coming up.
I've been there.
Because I love that they love their dog. I want them to love their dog, but we are not the same.
Exactly. It's hard. It's hard sometimes. I mean, I've learned to just keep my mouth shut, and mostly I'll just walk away from discussions with dogs. I have that at work because I'm the person who has dogs, and people are like, oh, Kimberly loves dogs. But ever since I wrote my book, because I have a copy of it at my desk, not the new one, but the old one, people now see that, oh no, she's one of those people. And so that gets me out of a lot of conversations, because I'm a weirdo. So that helps me a lot, and I appreciate that. But I have to go pick up dog food now.
All right.
We have our craziness with dogs.
Yeah, I had to plan my whole weekend schedule around getting Penny's medications, getting to the dog food store before they closed. Yeah. It was a whole thing.
Oh yeah. This is what our life is.
I wouldn't have it any other way, though.
I agree.
Until next week.
I'll talk to you later.